السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. In the name of Allah, the Lord of mercy, the giver of mercy, and prayers and blessings be on His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Inshallah, we're headed to Medina in 2 days. And I was just hoping to go over a couple of things before we go. Inshallah, it's going to be an amazing trip. I'm really excited about the group leaders. I'm excited about a number of people that I know are coming on the trip this time, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, part of the benefit of going on a spiritual journey with a group like this is that it actually spiritually connects us all together. So hopefully we also get good lifelong companionship from this trip. So first things first, the first thing we're going to do, inshallah, we're meeting at the JFK airport. If you have any questions, anxieties, whatever it is, please find one of the group leaders, inshallah. It's all going to go really, really well. We're all meeting at the JFK airport, and then we're going to fly. We're stopping in Cairo and flying into Medina. Once we arrive in Medina, we're going to check into the hotel, and the very first thing we're going to do is go give salams to the Prophet ﷺ. So anywhere else in the world, anytime we mention his name, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him. When you get to Medina, you're not going to say that. You're actually going to stand close enough to where he is buried, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you're just going to actually directly just say assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, which is, subhanallah, really just the highlight of the entire trip. And being in his presence actually brings out our best spiritual selves. And any time we're in Medina, so once we get to Medina, you'll see the size of the masjid. The entire masjid, there's like a gate around the masjid. That entire space is the original city of Medina. Everywhere we visit outside of there is outside of the original city of Medina. And the reason that's important is as you're walking anywhere in the masjid and around it, just be mindful that this is space where the Prophet ﷺ and his community was. So whatever adab and good character and ethics that we want to be exhibiting in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, we should be exhibiting any time that we are in Medina. The Prophet ﷺ, so when we first get there, we're probably going to go around from the outside to say salams to him. We're close enough to where he's buried so that we can say salams. Throughout the rest of the time in Medina, people are going to try to go into a place called the Rawda, and that the Prophet ﷺ said it was a part of Jannah. So the Rawda is actually between his mimbar, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, so the place where he would stand up to give Jum'ah, and the house of Aisha radiallahu anha, where he's actually now buried. And he would walk between those two spaces, and he said that that was a place in Jannah. When you get there, that area is actually marked by a green carpet. And for the men, it is open all of the time, and then for the women, it is open for very set times. I think it is 3 times a day. Usually it's after Fajr, after Dhuhr, and I think it's after Isha, but I'm not completely sure. Inshallah, we will be going together. When we get there, this is a lot more difficult for the women than it is for the men. We're going to be going in groups. Stay with your group. It is safer that way. And it's very, very crowded. People will be rushing. Just make sure when you are there that you are there with a group. People try to pray inside the Rawda. There isn't any special significance of praying inside the Rawda, but because it is a place in Jannah, people try to pray there. You're just going to pray any regular 2 rak'ahs. Of course, you are standing in front of the Prophet ﷺ. So if you want to stand there and make dua, then that is a great time to make dua. Again, you will be saying salams to him. There are also some historically significant places inside of where there's specific pillars where the Prophet ﷺ received people that converted to Islam, and people came in large groups and started, the different tribes and the different groups came and took their shahada with the Prophet ﷺ collectively. So there's specific things like that in the Rawda. Inshallah, those will probably be covered in the after Fajr and after Isha halaqas, and in the sisters halaqas that are probably, I think, after Asr, if you check the calendar that Imam Khalid sent out. So that is the Rawda. Right next to the Rawda, outside, just outside of Medina, is a place called Jannat al-Baqi'. It's also known as al-Baqi' al-Gharqad. There's a number of different names for it, but that was essentially the cemetery outside of Medina during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So there's around 10,000 Sahaba that are buried there. There are very prominent people that are buried there, so we will also try to get as close as we can to say salams. Sheikh Fiyaz is going to be taking a group of the guys into the cemetery to actually say salams to people. Unfortunately, they don't allow women, so what we're going to do is try to get as close as we can and try to again say salams to people. There's very significant people buried there, including the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, his daughter ﷺ, his son Ibrahim after he passed away, Al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Sayyidina Al-Hasan radiallahu anhu, the son of Ali radiallahu anhu. So the reason I mention that is again to highlight the significance of the people that are there. This is the Prophet ﷺ's community and his family. There are other prominent people that are buried there, including Imam Malik rahimahullah, his teacher Imam Nafi'. And again, Sheikh Fiyaz will be walking the guys through the cemetery itself, which is really, really beautiful. And inshallah, the women will have a women's halaqah where we'll discuss the different aspects of what we're not allowed into the cemetery. The thing that we are allowed to do, though, that the men are not, when we go into the rawdah, we're actually getting really close. We get closer to the house of Aisha radiallahu anha than anyone else where the Prophet ﷺ is buried. Right behind her house was the house of Sayyidah Hafsa radiallahu anha and a number of the mothers of the believers. There was also, inshallah, hopefully as we walk around, we'll be able to see the house of Ali and Fatima and really just the family of the Prophet ﷺ where they actually lived. Some of these places are still marked, the majority of them are not. SubhanAllah. Outside of Medina, when we leave, one of the important places we're going to visit is Uhud. You can actually see the mountain range of Uhud you can see it not too far from Medina itself. That's where the battle itself happened. Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anh, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, was killed during that battle. He is buried there. So again, we'll be saying salams to him and a number of the companions that were killed at that time. And inshallah, we'll be telling the story of Uhud. And alhamdulillah, I'm really excited about the group because we're going to have a number of different people sharing stories from the seerah and really trying to bring it to life. There's one other place that is pretty significant is we will be going to a place called Masjid Quba, and it's the southernmost area from Medina. So the Sahaba, when they were in Medina, they really, really missed Mecca. And they would go out and they would look at Mecca because they missed it. They missed the Kaaba, they missed Tawaf, they just missed being there. They missed doing Umrah. And so they would go out to that place, and the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever prays there gets the reward of Umrah. So inshallah, we will go there, we will pray 2 rak'ahs there, and we will do that before we actually head towards Mecca for Umrah. Something else that's interesting, after the regular prayers, we usually actually also do, anyone that passes away in Medina, we usually do their funeral prayers, and this happens both in Mecca and Medina, and they usually happen after the regular prayers. So after you pray the regular prayers, we're going to be praying all of them in Jama'ah, inshallah, with the congregation that is there. After every prayer, you will hear them say as-salatu ala al-amwat, or as-salat ala al-mayyit, or as-salat, basically prayer on those who have passed away. A single person who has passed away. They will also mention if there's children that have passed away. So every time that you do that, there's basically the prayer on the people that are deceased is very short. You're standing the entire time. You're not going to do any ruku' or sujood. You're just standing the entire time. It's 4 takbirat. The first one, you're going to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. The second one, you're going to recite As-Salah Al-Ibrahimiyya. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim wa barak ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim fil alamin innaka Hamidun Majid. The third takbirah, you're going to make dua for those who are deceased. And then the fourth one, you will make dua for yourself, for the ummah, etc. Inshallah, we'll go over that again. So at any point, just heads up, this happens after every single prayer. And it's important because it reminds us of, again, Medina brings out the best spiritual side to us, and it's really just putting things into perspective, that every single prayer, we're praying on someone that's passed away. So inshallah, and before we leave Medina, we will again go over the fiqh of Umrah. So if you miss parts of it, don't worry, we're all going to be doing it together, inshallah. But we're going to actually start our state of ihram before we hit Mecca. So we can probably get dressed for our ihram before we leave Medina, and we will start our ihram on our way there. So the way that Umrah works, Umrah is interesting because the state of ihram is really supposed to take you down to your core. For the men, you're not allowed to wear stitching. For both men and women, you're not allowed to use scented soap, scented perfume. Any of our worldly adornments are supposed to be gone. It is there to take us down to our core. The conversation that you're having with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during your Umrah is supposed to be the deepest, most intense conversation. So throughout our entire lives, we're making dua. Our entire life is a conversation we're having with Allah. The conversation you have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during ihram is just different, because it's supposed to hit you at your core. And it's supposed to take you down to that deepest conversation. Inshallah, once we get to Mecca, we'll probably again be checking into the hotel, dropping off our luggage, etc. And then we will start our Umrah immediately after. We'll be going as in a group. Imam Khalid talked about the different groups. Some of them will be going faster than others. If anyone needs a wheelchair or anything like that, there'll be a group that is going slower. And hopefully we'll again try to stick together as much as we can. The thing that I've seen people struggle with, you are there for Umrah takes about an hour, maybe more. You are making dua the entire time. If you are not used to making dua for that extended period of time, you're going to kind of struggle with it. So start practicing now and looking internally so that you can actually just be there with Allah. We're going as a group, but we're not there to talk to each other. You can talk during tawaf, but it's more logistical of like, hey, we're headed this way, and not, hey, what's up, what's going on today. That's not what we're there for. We're there to be talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anytime you're in tawaf, you have to be in a state of wudu. So tawaf is similar to the salah in terms of you have to be in a state of wudu. Your clothes have to be purified and clean. There can't be any impurities that are on your clothes. You have to be in a state of wudu. There's one exception that we will be making for women that are menstruating. So generally the rule is that the same way that you wouldn't be praying when you're menstruating, you also shouldn't be doing tawaf when you're menstruating. So when this happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Sunni tradition is based on that of Aisha radiallahu anha, is that she just waited until she was done menstruating, and then she went and did her tawaf. So built into our fiqh, the group is supposed to wait for a woman that is menstruating so that she has the time and space to be able to let her body do its thing, and then go back and continue her spiritual rituals. Unfortunately, we don't live in a time where people will wait. We're only going to be in Mecca for 4 days. So if you're menstruating the entire time that you are there, that essentially you're just going to make your regular wudu and just go and do tawaf. Just be prepared to, it is pretty intense. You will do your tawaf, and that you will have to pay a penalty. Penalty sounds kind of heavy because it's not something that you did wrong. It is a natural process. It's just a natural biological process. So because we are taking an exception, that's the reason that we are going to pay this extra money. And essentially it is what you would do for an udhiyah. I think it's about $150. It is not there to penalize you. It is there because that is just the sustenance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing for someone in need, and it just happens to come through us. If you accidentally use scented soap, you also have to pay a penalty. And again, if you think about it as a punishment, it is not a punishment. Allah wanted you to make slip up because someone else just needed that money. And I think for the scented soap, it's about 1/10 of that, so it's about $15 every time you use scented soap. So stay away from the scented soap. I'm trying to think what else. I'm going to go on a tangent for just really, really quickly. We tell women that you're not worshiping during the time that you're menstruating. That could not be further from the truth. Our worship is divided into the worship of our hearts, our tongues, and our bodies. As women, we are consistently told by society that we're nothing more than our bodies. So during this period of time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying it's mandatory self-care. Let your body do its thing and focus on the worship of your heart and your tongue. It is highlighting the worship of your heart and your tongue. It is not telling you that you don't worship. You are in a spiritual state. Our surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the definition of worship. So when He tells us to pray, we pray. When He tells us to take a break from prayer, we take a break from prayer. SubhanAllah. If anyone has questions about that, I'm on the WhatsApp group and you can text me whatever questions that you have. You don't have to be in a state of wudu for sa'i. It is recommended, of course, that you stay in a state of wudu, again, because it is a spiritual thing that we are doing. The sa'i, so we do the tawaf, we walk around the Kaaba 7 times, you start at the black stone, there's a green light. Again, we will be going over this with the different group leaders. So as long as you stick with one of the group leaders, you are fine in terms of the rituals. Just be focusing on your dua as much as you humanly possibly can. After we finish our tawaf, we're going to be praying behind an area where Maqam Ibrahim alayhi salam was. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he stood, where he could build the Kaaba. We're going to stand behind it, we're going to pray 2 rak'ahs, and then we're going to begin our sa'i. The sa'i is walking between the mountain of Safa and the mountain of Marwa. So you're going to begin at Safa, and when you get to Marwa, that's 1. Marwa to Safa back is 2. So you're going to begin at Safa and end at Marwa 7 times. You're not going to, back and forth is not 1. Just one way is 1. Otherwise you're going to be doing twice as much sa'i and you're going to be dead by the end of it. Inshallah, we'll all be fine. As soon as you're done with the 7, alhamdulillah, you're done. All that we're going to do is, for the men, it is recommended that they shave their heads. If not, they can shorten their hair. For the women, we're just going to shorten our hair and just, subhanAllah, that is it. We'll be done with our Umrah. The next day, there is a second Umrah that is optional, that is in the calendar. If anyone would like to go, they can. It is the Prophet ﷺ, when he went for Umrah, he only did 1 Umrah. The only reason anyone should be going for a second Umrah is if there's someone in your family that's passed away that didn't have the opportunity to go to Umrah, you can dedicate a Umrah to them. If you really want to go on the second one, you can. It is not, according to the fiqh that I've studied, wallahu alam, and Allah knows best, it is not necessarily recommended to do it because the Prophet ﷺ only did 1. If you feel like you would like to go do another one, if you feel like you didn't do the first one to the best of your ability and really want to do the second one, that is completely up to you, but not the entire group will not be going on that one. Also, again, if you are menstruating during that time, because we took the exception for the first one, we really shouldn't be taking the exception a second time. This is a time for, menstruating is a time to let your body do its thing. And that is the act of worship that you are doing. Other things. So when you get to the Kaaba, anytime you are in the Kaaba, the way that you walk into a masjid, part of honoring the place of worship that you are in, you pray 2 rak'ahs. In Mecca, that changes. So in Medina, that still is the case. In Mecca, anytime you go near the masjid, the way that you honor the masjid is by doing tawaf 7 times. So again, you're in a state of wudu and you just walk around the 7 times. As many tawafs as you can do, the better. We will also make sure that we do one right before we completely leave Mecca, and that is our farewell of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm trying to think what else we're doing. There are other trips that we'll be doing, so inshallah we'll be doing some walking tours. One of the highlights for me last year is that we were able to visit Sayyidah Sumayya radiallahu anha. She was the very first martyr in Islam, and the way that she was killed was very sexually graphic. So for a lot of sexual assault survivors, hopefully that is just a healing experience. It's also important for all of us to just visit those people. We got to walk the path that the Prophet ﷺ started off with when he went for the hijrah. So there's some very cool things in Mecca. Another thing that I think Sheikh Fiaz is also going to be leading in this one is hopefully visiting Jannat al-Mu'alla, where Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha is buried. So there are again very significant places in both Mecca and Medina. We're there on a spiritual time. I feel like in Medina we got to see the best of ourselves, and in Mecca it's the hustle and bustle of the city. It's pretty intense. Just try to keep your cool as much as you humanly possibly can. When you're in a state of ihram, you are not allowed to hurt anything. You don't walk too fast to scare the pigeon that's sitting next to you. Just let it all be. SubhanAllah. The first dua you say when you see the Kaaba for the very first time is accepted, period. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ to this effect. As you are thinking not just of the general du'as that you're making, really think long and hard what you want your first du'a to be. Chances are when you get there that you might just, from the intensity of the Kaaba and the presence, the spiritual presence that's there, you might completely forget everything you had planned. So if you want to write it down, write it down. There are a couple of recommendations. The really simple one is Allahumma atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhab an-nar, that Allah grant us the best of this life, the best of the next life, and protect us from the hellfire. That dua is so comprehensive, it didn't leave anything out. So if you can't think of anything, that one is a really good standard dua. There's another good standard dua that is kind of, I don't want to say it's a loop, it's a workaround. It's not a loophole, it's a, Ya Allah, accept every dua I make from here on out. That is a really cool one to make. It's really smart. But having said that, if you do make that dua, I'm asking you now to swear by Allah to never, ever make dua against someone. If you're going to make that dua of, Ya Allah, accept all of my duas from here on out, then make sure all of your duas are for the benefit of yourself and other people and never against anyone. May Allah protect us from anyone ever making dua against us. I'm again on the WhatsApp group, as are all the other group leaders. Sheikh Aisha is coming, which I'm really excited about, inshallah. So if you have any women-specific questions or questions in general, we're on the WhatsApp groups. Hopefully we'll see everyone Thursday. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.